Good evening, everybody. Good evening, everyone that's watching, race fans and the like. We are at round 8, which is taking place at Austria this week, and I am, as always, your commentator, Indecisive, and joining me again is Speed Quinn. Good evening.
Good evening, man. It's good to be back in the commentary box with you. I might have to make this my permanent home for commentary, but yeah, it's always great to be here. Always great to commentate over the Pinnacle of One Hub. So yeah, feeling really good about this race here at Austria. It always provides great racing, as we've seen in previous seasons, and even in the top tiers of league racing, such as PSGO and a PC tier with Jarno and teammate Danny Moreno coming together at turn 3. But yeah, we're not quite there with our high-profile drivers, but we're hopeful we'll get there one day.
Maybe the RT drivers will run into each other, but yes, of course, everything you said is valid, but of course, we would love to have you back, because last week was an actual magical race, so you're hoping you've brought some more with you this week.
Yeah, I'm hoping so as well. I'm really excited about this race, and of course, we are waiting on 4 people, I believe, to join, unless there were any absences that we aren't aware of, but currently 16 people in the lobby, so that's enough to make it an exciting race.
I think at maximum we're going to have 19. I don't think Legend can make it tonight, which is a shame, but I think everyone else should be here, but at this stage we're still waiting on a few. But yeah, it's always definitely an amazing tier is the Pinnacle tier, and every week stuff happens, but we have some permutations that we should probably get to before all the action starts to happen in qualifying. Now everyone sit back, put your feet up, because this is going to take a while. So, in simplest terms, if Netsky wins with the fastest lap, that Tom, Konzo, Ryder, Danestar and Zane are all eliminated. The same thing if he wins without the fastest lap. Then if Nitsky finishes second, then Tom, Konzo, Ryder, Dane and Zane are eliminated then as well. If Netsky finishes third, Zane needs to win with the fastest lap, but all the others are still eliminated on that. If he finishes fourth, Tom, Konzo, Ryder are all eliminated. Dane needs to win with the fastest lap, and Zane must win. Otherwise, and if Netsky finishes fifth, you have Tom, Konzo and Ryder Dahl all eliminated. Dane needs to win. Zane must finish second. And Netsky finishes 6th. Tom and Konzo are eliminated. Ryder must finish first. Dane needs second, and Zane must finish third with the fastest lap. And this is where it gets very complicated, so I'll hand back over to Quinn while he runs through the next few permutations.
Alright, so if Netsky finishes 7th, Tom is eliminated. Konzo must win with the fastest lap. Ryder Dahl must finish second with fastest lap. Dane must finish third with fastest lap, and Zane must finish fourth with fastest lap. If Netsky finishes 8th, Tom is still eliminated. Konzo must win. Ryder must finish second. Dane must finish third. Zane must finish fourth, and Silly must win with fastest lap to tie for the lead. If Netsky finishes 9th, Tom must win with fastest lap, Konzo must win, Ryder must finish second, Dane must finish 4th with fastest lap, Zane must finish 5th with fastest lap, and Silly must win with fastest lap to take the lead in the championship. If Netsky finishes 10th, Tom must win, Konzo must finish second with fastest lap, Ryder must finish third with fastest lap, Dane must finish 4th, Zane must finish 5th, and Silly must win to take the lead. If Netsky finishes 11th, Tom must win, Konzo must finish second, Ryder must finish third, Dane must finish 5th with fastest lap, Zane must finish 6th with fastest lap, and Silly must win to take the lead. If Netsky finishes 12th, Tom must finish second with fastest lap, Konzo must finish second, Ryder must finish 4th with fastest lap, Dane must finish 5th, Zane must finish 6th, and Silly must finish second with fastest lap to take the lead. And if Netsky for some reason doesn't score any points, we have Tom must finish second, Konzo must finish third with fastest lap, Ryder must finish fourth, Dane must finish sixth with fastest lap, Zane must finish seventh with fastest lap, and Silly must finish second to take the lead in the championship.
There we go. That is all the permutations for what can unfold this week, and of course we've seen some pretty heroic drives already this week in all the other tiers. Prospect kicked off with a wild race, and yeah, you've got to check that one out to believe exactly what happened in the end, and I believe the same happened in other tiers as well. But let's see what can happen in this tier. We have a wet qualifying session to start with, so let's find out exactly what can happen, although they are fitting the soft tyres, so it will dry, yes.
Yes, just looking over the pre-race interviews that we have, we have answers from Toma here. So first question was, are you looking forward to the high-speed nature of the track? He said, even though last time out in Austria in One Hub Racing, I won the race, Austria is not a track I'm fond of, especially Turn 1. Speaking of Turn 1, it is a very, very tricky track on Exeter to keep it within the limits, you must say.
Yes, absolutely. I saw my teammate just slightly invalidated it in qualifying earlier, and it's very, very easy to do, and he wasn't the only one to do that, so it's definitely probably the trickiest corner to take in terms of when you turn in. If you turn in too early, you cut. If you go too deep, you cut the outside and you still invalidate twice, so that's really it's a tricky challenge, but I think once you get the hang of it, you can probably do it about 9 times out of 10, which is fine. Especially in the race, you won't get any penalties for that for the first time again, but if you are unlucky, then you'll get plenty of penalties through there, which is definitely one of the two major areas for track extension. Of course, you might misjudge the brakes into turn 3 with the next DRS zone, which is still active even though it is raining, and of course the final corner as well, so that's very tricky to keep all 4 wheels on the track there as well, especially in qualifying when you're giving it that little extra 5% more that you think you can find. Turns out you've given it too much and you've invalidated all your hard work.
Yeah, so going on to the second question we had, quick lap times, short track. So would you say that qualifying could be the most important of the final few rounds? And he replied again, the last time out I started in P18 and finished first, so don't think quali is important. Anything can happen in the race though. The third question, there's always an opportunity to overtake here, but where are you the strongest on the track? He said probably sector 2. As we see Ryderdale put in a 180, so it's not quite optimal for the slick compounder tyres, but still decent lap times being put up as the Matter puts up a 108.6, so about 5.5 temps off of Ryder, so got some ground to make up as Silly puts in a lap time which is 4 temps quicker than Ryderdale, so got the times flying in now.
Yes, you mentioned someone's name enough on the permutations and that suddenly flips a switch inside and he goes quickest very early on, which is what he's used to doing, and of course he's not had his all his own way the previous few races, and of course, as we'll get to very shortly, he has lost his lead in the driver's standings, which is quite a shock if you've been here since day one of this season. It's been quite the dominance you've seen from Sly Guy, but he's now got 16 points to overhaul to Netsky.
So yeah, just looking at the fourth question that we had for the pre-race interviews, rain always changes the characteristics and perhaps momentum of a race, but if it rains here, we'd be better off for it. And he replied saying, I usually don't hope for rain, but this week I might be open to it. And the last question we had in our pre-race interviews was, how are you planning on mixing up things? Well, how are you planning on mixing things up to get you a good result? And he replied saying that he's not sure. He's gonna stick out the race, keep my pens low, and hopefully I find myself in a good spot. So just about how everyone else will see this race.
Yeah, of course it does touch upon what we were saying about keeping penalties to a minimum, especially around this track, as I know that some people jump really high up the order with the late safety car as well. That could really scupper their chances if they have multiple penalties and people around them have none. They could definitely tumble down the order really quickly with multiple penalties. But some of the drivers are struggling to put a lap together at the moment, with the conditions being as tricky as they are. But it looks like Henry's on the right account again this week, so that's good. Tom Robbo's on a lap on the mediums, which is a brave call at this chance, but what we have at the moment, I would say Neski has 106 points in the standings, and Sly Guy has 90 points. And then in third place, moving up a position, I believe, is OP Zane with 58 points, just 2 ahead of Dane Star, who has 56, who is just 3 ahead of Ryder Dahl on 53, and Konzo has 50, Tom Robbo has 48, Toma has 40, Pierre Papi has 31, Legend has 30, but as we know, he can't add to that tonight because he's unfortunately unable to make it. Khalifa has 22. Where's Khalifa at? I haven't seen him for a while. Is he here tonight? No,
I don't believe he is.
He's not. That's a shame. This is a good track to try and undercut on, I think, and Khalifa is very fond of that. But anyway, he's in 11th place of the standings on 22 points. Owen Wyatt also on 22 points, with Arnold on 21 points, Vienna on 20 points. It's quite tight in this tier, isn't it? It's amazing every week that every point really does matter to these, which is great. It matters to all the drivers, but I think this tier takes it to a whole new level of points mattering in the final stages. Henry has 18 points, Napidius has 17, Samba has 15. Could have been more if he'd remembered to program his TAS properly last time out. The Matter also has 15, which is not bad at all, considering I think he's done what? Would be his third race here this season. Yeah, it's a really good result, return for him so far. And then you have Confessor on 8 points, who started off quite okay and just faded and just hasn't raced for a while. And you have Rafa down there yet to score, who's currently P3 in this session, so that's going to do him no end of confidence. But at the moment, you don't get any points for qualifying.
No, that you do not. So, just going over the rivalries, of course, we both know that in Pinnacle tier, they don't really answer any questions if they're not obliged to. So we don't have any replies from the drivers, but I'll read it out anyway. So the rivalry was between Samba and Netsky, and the question and statement was costly errors ahead of the race by failing to set up the task properly, which inevitably cost Samba his win. So the question to Netsky was, has Samba's error cost his ERT teammate Drivers' Championship this season, as his penalty gave you the win and a few more points? And then the question to Samba is, can your ERT teammate Silly Sly Guy win a championship? He's been dominating since lap 1 of the season. Of course, we did mention that we don't have any replies on this at the moment, so that's unfortunate.
It is unfortunate, but I think in that situation I would certainly pay up to one of those questions. If I was Netsky, I would say I didn't really need his error. I think I'm good enough to win it anyway, but it certainly helps me out. Or if I was Samba, I'd be like, it really shouldn't be anything to do with me. I think Sly Guy is quick enough to win, and let's see who wins out between the two very good drivers. Something like that, depending on what mood I was in when I was asked that question. But I think that would be a fair enough response. But yeah, as you say, we don't really have many responses from this tier. Even those when they are obligated to do it, we still don't get them either. So, Arnold, there you go. He's finding his form. 107.0. Track's improving a little bit. Still raining, but not as heavy as it was.
Yeah. So just as we're in the middle of that, Matter actually got a 174. So he's up in P2 at the moment. Silly is on the track. I think he's just finishing his lap. What will it be? A 157, 1.3 seconds faster than Arnold. He's really taking to the circuit now.
He is, and I think it's just stopped raining as well. If you look at the Alfa Romeo, it doesn't seem to be having rain drop down the rest of his car, but the Tom Robbo fan club is in the chat, so hello chat, thanks everyone that's in there just to check out what we're doing here and watching this. I'm sure will be fantastic race very shortly after this 7.5 minutes and change of qualifying left to do, but it is very intriguing at the moment with Sly Guy finally poised. Well, was until Arnold decided, right, I like this track. He's done 7 laps on those tyres, so that tells me that maybe it could either be a wet race or he's planning to do a very strange, very early stop in the race on those tyres, because of course top 10 have to start on those tyres where they qualify on. But yeah, it's interesting why he's done 7 laps and Sly Guy takes it right back again. This is getting very interesting at the moment. And Rafa, can he do anything? No, not quite. Is a few tenths off, but that's a good improvement from him there.
Yeah, once the track starts drying and it stops raining, it is a rapid increase of it's a rapid increase of performance. Like, I speak from experience in my race. The qualifying was wet and it dried, and I think the lap times went from a 1:11 to about a 1. I think the fastest time was a 1:42. So it really does improve rapidly. As Silly Sly Guy's actually given a toe to Tom Robbo, he moves out of the way and gives him a little slingshot down into turn 4. Not sure how much of an impact that would have had on Tom Robbo, but let's hope that gives him a little bit of extra lap time.
Yes, it usually does find him a couple of tenths, as he's just gone purple through sector 2 according to the game, but on Taz he has not. That currently belongs to Konzo, so yeah. Let's check the conditions for what kind of race we're supposed to have. Okay. That is a scarily good time. Well, 3.9 for Tom Robbo. His fan club, you can hear cheering in the background there. And I'm really worried by Arnold. Why has he done 7 laps on those tyres?
He is in the pits now, though. He is in the pits, so maybe he was just using the one set of softs just to not waste any more tyres, really. I think it's a good idea to just use one set of tyres so you can get an idea of how it'll go in the race, as Pierre Papy goes 2 tenths faster than Tom Robbo. ERT Henry goes 2 tenths slower than Pierre Papy, though, so Pierre Papy, once again, he's in a prime position for could be a consecutive pole position for him.
Could be, but Henry's done that time on the medium as well, so that's very impressive for that. And Tom Robbo, he's going again. He's nailed it round the final corner. Can he take provisional pole back? Yes, he can for now. But let's see if anyone else can beat him a little bit later on in the session. But Honoured is back out on there on fresher tyres, thankfully. And I can confirm that the race is scheduled to be a dry one. So that's probably why with a 4 to 5% chance of rain expected in the race, with a high air temperature of 22 and the high track of 31, with a low of 21 and the track about 30. So not much deviation in terms of temperature and weather there. But Arnold is about to start another flying lap, so I'm going to stay on board with him, who actually is one of the rare drivers that actually answered one of the media questions as he was chosen for drivers' press conference. And as he goes around this lap, I will take you through his thoughts. And I'm surprised that wasn't a corner cut there at turn 1. We talked about it earlier, but he got away with that one. And he was asked, he's not where many might have expected him to be at this stage of the season, but he seems to be picking up his form of late. And we were wondering what's been the secret to that, and will he continue to do so? He replies, unfortunately, he does have less time to practice for races this season. He feels he's got some good qualifying pace, but he does struggle to cope with tyre wear or the heavy fuel loads, which I have noticed. He's a little bit slower in race trim than you might expect, but he never gives up and always tries to give people the best run for their money. Let's see how things go for the last few races. And he has it now invalidated as I say that. Samba is just starting an out lap, so not him. Alright, Adal, no. OP Zane is about to start a flying lap, so let's sit on board with the Williams driver and see how far up that leaderboard he can catapult himself with these conditions. Pretty much perfect now, with just about 2.5 minutes of qualifying to go. It really flies by here. It's a very quick track, and the race will fly by too. Turn 1 is not great, he's invalidated already, so there we go. That ruined that.
Yeah, he did have a little bit of a slide going through the corner, so that just unsettled the rear and unfortunately made him slide over that yellow sausage curve on the exit, which that's really an indication. If you go over that yellow sausage curve, you know you've invalidated a lap.
Yes, it is unfortunate, especially when you get a slide. It's not really your fault why you've got the corner, but there you go. You have to attack it, but yeah, definitely in qualifying in the final 2 minutes, of course, which we are now approaching. Definitely got to give it a little bit extra, as I mentioned earlier, but Sly Guy is doing this lap on the medium, so if he can put this on provisional pole position on the medium tyre, he's definitely motivated to get his championship lead back. But of course, that all depends on what Netsky does in the race. At the moment, he's in P11, which would be not many points, but enough to keep ticking over, which is, you know, just do what you need to do. Alan Prost would do the same thing. If he can't win the race, he'd settle for 10th. I mean, he'd never be in 10th, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. Just on board with Samba now. See what lap time he can do on the mediums. As he just goes around the last corner.
Oh my.
Silly. Samba goes even quicker than Silly.
Wow. That's but he's on he's on mediums as well. That is absolutely incredible. That is men at work there.
Netsky on the softs.
P3. There we go. Say someone's name enough and they hear you and put it. This should be a cracking battle for the race, but is Pierre Happy going to do anything to upset the form? He's into P2 there, but it's getting close now, and this is as we like it here in the Pinnacle tier. Let's see if Ryderdal can do anything. He's about halfway around his lap, and we've lost Dainstar from the session. No, Ryderdal's invalidated as a look at that. Is Dainstar in a wall or in the pits?
He's in a wall coming out of turn 3.
Well, we lost on one as well. He was coming out of the pits. I think he's lost it at turn. Well, I don't think he even made it out the pit lane. I think he's crashed at the pits. Henry, I think that's pit lane retirement there. Yep. Let's see what Samba does. There we go. Quick, and time is over. So if you're not on a lap now, it's a bit late. Tom Robbo has to attack turn 1, but I think he eased off a little bit as he got to the exit. But this could be a good time if he can just keep this momentum all the way down to the heavy braking zone, which I like to call turn 2, even though it is turn 3. Never ever get me started on that topic. But Tom Robbo, no, that's not how you do that at all. OP Zane has just popped it into P3, but Samba looks like he's going to get pole position in the end. He's still on track, and I don't think anyone out there can beat him. Sly Guy maybe, but these tyres aren't at the best anymore. Let's see what he can do for the final few moments of this session. It's either going to be Samba or Sly Guy. Either way, it's going to be ERT in pole position. And Sly Guy gives up.
Yeah, Sly Guy gave up after turn 1, which is unfortunate. But Samba, after the disappointment of the last race with his win being taken away from him, starts the race in a prime position in P1.
Yep. And it looks like everyone has their TAS correctly tuned this week. It's taken a while for me to get to that point, but shouldn't have anyone losing a race win on TAS infringements this week. So that is fantastic to hear. The win should stick as long as you don't have any on-track penalties, which of course is a very different issue altogether.
Yeah, of course, we do have Netsky ahead of Silly, the two title contenders. And speaking of Netsky, he is our hot driver for this week in Pinnacle. Just going over what was said. Netsky has capitalised on Sly Guy's dip in form to retake the championship lead. last time he did that, he went on to take the driver's crown. Are we about to witness 2 in a row? And the cold driver was Pierre Papi this week, and he qualified on pole in Silverstone and really had the best chance to solidify his team in the top 3 in the constructors, while also taking care of his own top 10 position in the drivers. But unfortunately he did tumble down the order, struggled, and was lucky to even register a single point.
He was, but look at the gap between the top 5. It's less than a tenth of a second here. That's incredible. Yes, Samba, Netsky, Zane, Pierre Papi, Sly Guy, Tom Rubble, Henry, Dane Starr, Tom and Napidius round out the top 10. And of course Henry, Sly Guy and Pole Sitter Samba will be starting on mediums there. Arnott first choice attire in 11th, Rydal 12th, Konzo, Rafa, the Matter and Owen Wyatt round out the qualifying order. And that is, if the racing's going to be anywhere near as close as qualifying was, I think we're in for a treat tonight, but we'll get to that shortly. I would just like to take this opportunity to thank our wonderful sponsors and partners here at One Hub Racing. We can't do it without them, and we have Next Level Racing sponsor the league by providing a Next Level Racing direct drive stand to our driver of the season, which is a new award here at One Hub Racing. And you have 3M Sim Racing, who sponsor the league by providing a pair of their sim racing gloves to the driver with the most combined poles and fastest laps. And I don't think Samba can do anything about that. I think it's too late to get most, but he's definitely put his name up there in terms of this week. And our partners here, Vespertine, support our championship prizes, and ERT partner, the ERT Go and Get Stuff Award, which is basically for all drivers to attend all races. You don't necessarily have to finish the race, but you do have to mention your media obligations when you're called into media for press conferences, pre and post race interviews, and of course those drivers still need to finish outside the top 3 because they get a prize anyway. So if you're outside the top 3 and do all that, you are eligible to win. And if there's multiple winners or entries or people still left in it, they will be put on a lucky spin of the wheel. I won it last season, which I still can't believe. I'm looking at it right now, and it could be you that has the same kind of luck on the wheel at the end of the season. So those are our sponsors and partners. And of course we need to make special mention to our Tasman, who makes it very effective use of the Taz for us to use in races, so we can see who has damage, who's pushing, who's holding back, and who's doing what exactly. And it is an incredible tool, so thank you to T-Bow for that. And we're just about ready to get started onto the formation lap, and it will be interesting to see what kind of strategy those outside the top 10 use to try and get ahead in this one.
Yes, in my race I had actually qualified on the mediums, and I went for a 2-stop strategy, which I pitted on lap 6 from the mediums on, and I did 2 stops on the softs of 15 laps each, and that got me on the podium. So we could see something similar from the likes of Samba, Silly, Henry, and even the guys outside the top 10. Yeah, it's an interesting strategy. I think mainly from the people starting on softs, we will see a soft, medium, soft strategy, maybe even a soft, soft, medium, if they wanted to do that. But yeah, medium runners in Samba, Silly and Henry, we have to keep an eye on those, because by the end of the race that could be our top 3.
Yes, it definitely could, but always keep an eye out for people outside the top 10 as well, especially drivers like the Matter could definitely come forward. We've seen Owen Wyatt do this in the past as well, so look out for them. Possibly they're on different strategies for now. Matter starts on softs, Owen starts on the mediums, as does Rafa, Konzo, Rydal, and of course Arnott, who qualified in 11th. They're all on mediums, so the Matter could really get a great start here. But will he fade later on in the race as those around him switch to the softs later on? There's only one way to find out. Stay right here, folks. We're going to get racing very shortly, as Samba is rounding up and going to take his grid slot in pole position, which of course he did qualify on the medium, so he could do a slightly earlier stop than you may expect, but not too much earlier. And can't wait for this one. It's going to be good, I'm sure. I can feel it in my bones, and I'm sure you brought some magic with you.
Yeah, I always have my magic quick prediction, I will actually say... I'm going to say Owen White gets the podium.
Well, if anyone can, Owen can.
We've seen it in Bahrain in the first time we were together. Himself and Dainstar shot up the positions.
Yeah, and there go the lights. They're all on, and they're all off again, and away they go into a very short run into turn 1. But can Samba keep his advantage, or can he get overtaken by Netsky? Netsky has a soft tyre off the line, so he should have the advantage, and of course he does close the door there, takes the lead. But Zane is in third, Tom Robbo down there in fourth, and Sly Guy is in fifth on the medium, so he will have an advantage later on. If he can switch them on, he could get a move done into turn 2, but no, shuts the door on his teammate, does Tom Robbo. And behind him there's all sorts of contact between Dainstar and Pierre Taffy. Didn't see anything flying off, but there could well be a little bit of Taz may report some damage, but yes, Henry has a broken front wing, and Dainstar has a little bit of damage on his front wing as well after that contact. So yeah, it's all going off here already on lap 1. They are fighting for every position like it matters, which it really does, of course. And right it all just down the inside of Dainstar. Yes, that damage there to Dainstar definitely hindered him, and I had similar damage in my race earlier, so I know how it feels. But of course, in prospect, it was raining for most of the race, so doubly tricky with not all your front wing. And Dainstar does, of course, pit early, which he can do from the softs. He's going to switch to the mediums, presumably. There's a yellow flag in Sector 3. I don't know what that's for, but they're fighting at the front in Sector 1. But the yellow flag has clearly disappeared, and I'm pretty sure we are on lap 2. I was going to say we weren't, but the timing tower does its thing, but it is correct at the moment. But can Samba outbrake Zane? Yes, he can. Two very similar cars at a glance, but the Williams and the Alpine are nowhere close to being the same colours. Now you understand it properly. But look at all this action into turn 2. Can Zane make another move? Yes, I think he can. He's just got the toe off the exit. Slightly better than Tom Robbo there, and he's up into P3. But Netsky still leads after his very early overtake on Samba.
Yeah, Silly gets a very good exit of turn 8, but Tom Robbo looks to have the better second phase of the exit, so it's looking good for Silly. Sitting in P5 on the mediums, he's currently second in the medium runners as we have the yellows, and that is the matter. I think he crashed. It doesn't look like he has front wing damage, but he is coming into the pits early on those softs. We'll have to see. I do believe they aren't holding the front wing, so he's just come in and pit early. I think he did have a spin coming to the pit entry, but yeah, he's changed to the medium so far, so maybe he's going to try and do mediums to about lap 21, 22, and then go to the softs to the end if nothing changes with safety cars, as that will really impact his race. But going back to the front, there's a huge DRS train going back from Netsky to Arnaud, so it's a 12-car DRS train.
That is quite an incredible sight, especially from the long cam, which you'll see if on board with anyone into turn 1. You will see all those cars pretty much within a second of each other, the DRS train. But there's a virtual safety car for something, just as it looked like Konzo was going to make a move on the Onitoma. But unfortunately, the yellow flags mean you cannot overtake. You must decrease your speed by 20%. And if you don't do that, you will get a drive-through penalty for speeding under the virtual safety car, which, of course, you can manage at this track because it's such a short pit lane, but you don't really want to get one either. There you go. Talking of which, there you go. Oh, Dainstar's had enough. Oh, dear. Yes, that's
really
unfortunate.
Really unfortunate for Dainstar, but there was two people who pitted under the virtual safety car, being Owen Wyatt and Rafa, so they've got one stop out of the way. Mata has also had one stop, and yeah, the bottom 4 are the only people who have stopped us. Zane has lost it. Zane went for a spin on the exit of turn 8, which is very, very unfortunate, as that sees him behind Arnaud now, as Nabidius gets the first penalty of everyone in this race. He does pick up a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings pertaining to track limits. Samba gets a move on net. I'm not sure what's happened to Netsky. Maybe he just got outbroke by Tom Robbo and Samba, but he finds himself in P3 and is in prime position for Silly to catch up, as Tom Robbo and Samba create a blockade in front of him. As oh no, Owen Wyatt has retired in the pit lane. My pick for the win.
Oh no,
for the podium. My magic has gone.
Well, my magic's gone as well, because Owen Wyatt used to be my fantasy driver in this tier. I benched him for Danestar, so that's gone well, hasn't it? But yeah, that incident with Netsky, he just had nowhere to go. He looked like Sligo was going to get past him, but there was nowhere for him to go either. There was just a bit of a unusual pattern of cars there in the way of Sligo, and I don't think he knew how to quite take that, but luckily contact was avoided, and a few moments ago Rafa did pit because he did have a damaged front wing, very badly broken left and right front wing, 100 damage, so no front wing at all by the look of it. Arnold's got a penalty, and Rafa is absolutely flying at the moment, so maybe the mediums are the type to be on in these conditions.
Yeah, it does look like it, as we have got a 5-car train at the front. The front three wide into turn 4. Samba comes out in the lead. There's contact between Netsky and Tom Robbo. Silly's just lurking around the back alongside Ryderdale. They're just lurking in the back, letting the front 3 squabble between them, and we all know he's going to pounce when the time's right.
Yes, he certainly will, and he also knows when to pit late as well, because there was a race a few weeks ago, and I remember saying if he pits now he's going to win the race. Of course, he pits now, won the race by about 25 seconds. It was an absolutely stellar performance, and at that point we were thinking, is anyone going to beat him? Turns out he beat himself, and now Netsky has the championship lead, as we talked about earlier. But for now, this is a cracking race, and we're only 7 laps in, and there's already been so many overtake attempts, and I think we're going to have a lot more to come here in Austria in the Pinnacle tier.
Netsky goes for a move. There's contact, but it opens it up for Silly. He's side by side with Samba. Netsky gets into the lead, but Silly is really pushing to get ahead and try to catch up, and he does. So in one corner, Samba goes from having a lead to P3 and being under attack from Ryderdale in behind.
Yeah, he might be having flashbacks last week when he lost his win and a podium because of that Taz infringement, but luckily this is just on-track overtakes and he can come back because Netsky will be pitting before any of these guys on the mediums, and who knows, if you pit at the wrong time, you get caught up in traffic, your race could well be, well, ruined is a word you could use, but it could be definitely whatever word you want to use there. It's definitely that. It's definitely not ideal to be stuck behind anyone. You know you can pass but can't get past, because it's like being David Coulthard at Monaco in 2003 when he couldn't overtake a car that was about 4 seconds a lap slower than him because there was an overtake over a Sly guy. Oh, and Samba got to the apex a little bit too early there and almost spun the car. Luckily for Ryderdale, he ghosted a little bit, so there's no damage done there, but it was definitely very close there between them. But Sly guy leading from Netsky and Samba, and Ryderdale close behind with Toma just behind him as well. So this is still a 5.5 car train, as you have Konzo just a little bit outside that as well, but not quite close enough for it to really make a difference at the moment. But he's got to keep himself in the window, and he's doing a great job of that.
Yeah, just watching that move from Silly on Netsky is very, very well played from Silly going into the last DRS zone. He had dropped off, he had just slowed down a little bit so he would get the DRS detection on Netsky going into the last DRS zone, and that really helped boost him ahead as he's starting to pull away. But Netsky, of course, has the DRS now, so the gap is now about 6 tenths. Silly goes for a little drift around turn 3, which is one way to take that corner.
Yeah, it's definitely not the ideal way to take it, but he's found a way around it, and that's all that matters. But Sly Guy is defending now from Netsky. I think Netsky's got a bit of a run on him on the softer rubber, but can he force his way through before his tyres become not very good? Can he make advantage of these while he's on them, or will he be trying to do something later on in the race? Of course, there's still a possibility. There's a slim possibility at the moment of a safety car, but that's always going to threaten to rear its head, and that's a little bit of a moment for Netsky, as I think he's made a late decision to pit there. It looked like a very funky line, and he's got away with it, and Tom Robbo now has another list of people on the track infringement list. So Ryder Dahl up to P3, and he's absolutely flying, has DRS, but I don't think he's going to be close enough to challenge Samba into the braking zone, but he's definitely going to come a little bit closer just as the braking zone comes. There it is. Not enough road, but he's definitely a little bit closer than he has been. But of course you have Toma and Konzo slightly behind them as well. They're going to have a little battle. Let's see which one of these can make the tyres work better that they're on. Most of the field actually are on mediums now, some fresh, some started on them. You have Toma and Arnold, the only two drivers out there on soft tyres, and Arnold has just put his on, so let's see how quickly he can put himself back up the field from P9. It's not too shabby for his season so far, but he'd like to be, everyone knows he can be a little bit higher than that. There's a moment there for Konzo, but I mean the pit lane rules are catching everybody out, because once you go past it you're not really supposed to pit, but I think they've just about got away with it there, and Ryder Dahl is still in P3 with Samba and Sly Guy. Looks to be the fight today, and let's see who's going to come out on the top step of the podium in about 25 or 6 laps time.
Yeah, so I didn't want to butt in with you doing your speech there, but just looking at when Netsky had put in, of course he is on fresh mediums, as you do say, yellow flags, and that is actually Arnaud. He's completely lost his front wing, which is so disappointing for him, and we see a virtual safety car. Arnaud is just rolling. Okay, he's stopped on the side of the track.
I hope his wheel hasn't disconnected.
Yeah. Oh, he's back. He's slowly making his way.
Yeah, okay.
Slowly making his way back onto the track, and I think he's all good now. But yeah, as I was saying before, we do see front four all pit in. We'll have to see what Pierre Papi does, but this is great for the front four, because of course under virtual safety car and normal safety car conditions, the amount of time you lose is actually lessened, as we see Pierre Papi and Tom Robbo both pit in as well. Silly goes on to the softs. He's going to be doing another stop onto the softs, as well as Samba. Konzo also goes onto the softs, and Ryder Dahl goes onto the mediums. Have to check what Pierre Papi and Tom Robbo does. So Pierre Papi goes onto the mediums, and Tom Robbo goes onto the mediums. And so does Zane.
It's definitely, oh dear. There you go. What I was talking about earlier, drive-through penalties. But it is tricky, because Netsky's only P5, but I think under normal conditions he wouldn't be that far down. He would definitely be in P2 or maybe P1, depending on what kind of outlap he had. But at the moment with the VSC, it's definitely hindered him, and of course with this track being so small, in other tracks it would just be one sector for the VSC, but in this it was a whole lap I think where the VSC was out. So that was it lasted a minute 19 seconds, which is just over a full lap of this track, race trim conditions. It's definitely hindered Netsky's race, but he can bounce back, and of course he has such a big advantage. Maybe he'll just take the Prost approach. He was settled for 5th, I don't know, but that's certainly going to do him no harm at all by finishing in the top 5 in the standings. Of course that's definitely going to be all for, that'll be fine actually. I think that's, 5th place, he can't be caught even if Sly Guy wins, so that's definitely a good thing to do.
So I just wanted to check the stops for everyone. at the moment, and Tom Robbo has already done 2 stops. But just checking his tyres, he is on mediums, so we'll have to take them a long way to get to the end, but he's already done his 2 stops, so it could be looking good here as he's having a battle with Nepidius. There's slight contact, but Tom Robbo is on fresher mediums and he's got the outside for turn 6, I believe this is. Yep, he's still in. Oh, no he's not, he's got ahead of him as Nepidius gets another 3-second time penalty, which is very unfortunate for him. But I just want to hop back on board with Konzo as he's getting close to the back of Riederdal and he looks like he's got the run. Of course, he is on a faster tyre than Riederdal, so he will have an overwhelming performance boost at this moment in time. But we see Netsky is still in 5th place, but he is part of this little train behind Konzo, involving himself, Konzo and Riederdal. Just looking back to Opie Zane as he's going for an overtake on the matter, and he gets it done before even going through the fake corner. That is a corner, but not really. Turn 2. It's just a kink in the straight, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of like Russia turn 1, which is, you know, the first proper turn is turn 1 to me at Russia, just like here, you know, but I guess track limits and track guidelines state we must call it a corner, but I kind of don't want to do that because a corner means you have to slow down. They don't have to slow down for that, so that's why I don't consider it a corner. But I don't make the rule book, I just try and talk about it every Friday night here in One Hub Racing in the Pinnacle tier. But of course we are back at the front between Sly Guy and Samba, and they're both on soft tyres. But the point you were making earlier about Tom Robbo, it's possible to take the mediums to the end, but they are going to be very, very stressed by the time they get to the end, especially with these conditions. Currently, air temperature 21 degrees, track temperature 30 degrees. They like it toasty, but I don't think they like it quite like that toasty. There's nowhere for the heat to go. They're just going to get hotter and hotter, and hopefully it'll be able to make the end without issues. But at the moment he's doing a very good job and is the net race leader with 2 stops under his belt.
So yeah, just going back to the 3-car train with Netsky, you think that Riederdal would play a team game with Netsky being current leader in the championship? You think that Riederdal would probably let him through, although Riederdal is still technically in contention for the title. But with his teammate being in the championship lead, as it looks like it's going to be a double overtake for the Ferraris, and maybe Netsky's going to go for a move on his teammate. Maybe looking for a tighter line, but he doesn't get it done. But he does have DRS on Riederdal now, so this is his chance to get up into P3. But this looks like he's maybe a bit too far back to make this move done. So again, within the space of, well, 1 corner, Konzo, another driver, has gone and lost 2 positions.
Yeah, I think Netsky would have taken the risk of trying to pass the other car if it wasn't his teammate, but he knows his teammate, so I think he's just playing a little bit more of a tactical approach here. It's definitely Konzo's lost out there big time by being overtaken by both Ferraris. He was 3rd, now he's 5th, and he hasn't really done anything wrong in that either, so it all shows you the power of the straight line speed and the DRS and the tow and everything, and dirty air through the corners. It's all coming into play today, and this is fantastic stuff. Pierre Papi in 13th, of course. Points for the top 12 and fastest lap points outside and inside the top 10. So theoretically, you could finish outside the points but still get a point, which is amazing. And I think it's not many leagues that could do that. So let's just sit back and enjoy the ride, because I have absolutely no idea who's going to be on for fastest lap later on in the race, whether they're going to try and tactically take one later, or they're just going to let the result take care of itself. I have no idea, and frankly it's amazing to find out every week here. And Netsky is still within about half a second, give or take a 10th or 2 of his teammate, and I don't know if they would be communicating for team orders, or whether Netsky was like, no, you go, I'm not quicker than you yet, but just don't try anything stupid, I guess, would be his message there. If I was in this situation with my teammate, of course I'm not, but maybe next season Sly Guy, that's made it interesting up front.
Ooh. Yeah, this track is infamous for being very difficult to maintain track limits, as Netsky finally gets a move done on Ryderdale. Ryderdale has really used up his ERS, and Netsky, well, he's still on 85%.
Excellent.
But he's really pushing, trying to get away from Ryderdale, and that gap is still about 3 tenths, as is the gap from Samba to Silly. But Samba can not really take it easy, but not put as much pressure on Silly whilst still keeping within that distance, because if Samba can keep himself within the 3-second gap, it puts him in a prime position to take the race win.
Yep, that's absolutely a great point. He lost a win last week by Taz issues, but this week he could gain a victory by on-track penalties, so he's going to give it all he's got, but not quite everything, because he doesn't need to pass Sly Guy on track at the moment. But if he gets a penalty late, I'm not saying he will, but his warnings are close as well, so he's got to be very, very careful there. He's not quite close enough to try it into the braking zone, but he's definitely letting Sly Guy know he's still about. Netsky is just taking care of himself right now, which is what you need to do. He's on a different strategy. He's on a different race right now. He's just doing what he needs to do to just keep his advantage as good as he can. But this... I was about to say, this could be...
Oh, you go ahead.
This could be a key moment in the race. Can Samba, pull away enough for the Netsky not to bother him later on in the race, or will Sly Guy just pull something out of the back at the next pit stop? Stay tuned and find out. We are just about halfway done here, which means we've got just about half of this race still to go, and frankly, it's anybody's race at this point.
Yeah, definitely. I was just going to mention, for the soft runners at the moment being Silly, Samba and Konzo, these guys may be looking at pitting around about the area of lap 20 to 22, 23 to go onto another set of softs. Of course, they will be very, very worn by the end of this stint, but you want to extend them as much as possible, so by the end of the second stint on the softs, they'll be in the best condition possible.
Yes, that is a fantastic point to make, and little did I realise Arnold is actually retired, because yes, it is, his wheel has disconnected, which is unfortunate for him. Just when he was looking like he was going to get back into this race, he had a wheel issue, and Matta was complaining about dirty air, and people are supporting Matta, and people are supporting Tom Robo in the chat, so thanks to the chat for watching along with us. I hope you're having as much fun as I am.
So yeah, just looking down, everyone, we do have yellow flags, and that's Toma. Toma's off at turn 7, which is really unfortunate, but he does keep his position, but he loses a bunch of time to Konzo. It doesn't look like he's lost any front wing. Just looking at Tass at the moment, I don't believe he's got any front wing damage. Tass is all good this week. We don't have any glitches saying people are out when they're not, but just looking at the damage, he hasn't got any front wing damage or any damage at all, so he got away with that one. But the big thing about that is Tom Robbo is now within 2 seconds of him, and he's brought along his mates in Emery and Lepidius.
Yep, there's trains forming all over this track. You've got that one, you've got Konzo's now pretty much on the back of Ryderdale and Netsky, and I think Zane is out there flying as well with the purple sector 2, so it's all going off, and frankly it's fantastic, and it just shows the skill level of this tier. Whether they're in 11th or 1st, they're going to try and push for the next position, unless of course Janetsky being sensible about the championship picture, because he's been there, he's won it before, and I think he's definitely got his eyes onto, whether he'll say that or not in the press is another story, but I think he's definitely thinking about it now, and if results stay as they are, it's going to be a very good position for him with the final 2 rounds to go. But of course there's going to be a week break between round 9 and 10 due to you know, the November the 5th, which is when the final of the season would have been, but I got a feeling there wouldn't be many people attending there, so they've suspended the race till the next week. But that is a lot to think about if you're potentially about to become a double champion. That week break could get in his head. I don't think it will, but you never know. Maybe the week off will do my job for me, and maybe I won't have to do any rivalries or anything for that week. But that's then. But we're right back to right now. Neski is so much closer to Ryderdale now that he's been for a couple of laps, and he seems to have dropped Konzo. So it's between the two Ferraris for the final step on the podium. I'm pretty sure later on Ryderdale may move over for Neski if he can't get up the road, which he doesn't like he's doing. But at the moment, they're both on similar strategies, although Neski's tyres are slightly older, so he may well have first call a pit stop, even though he's not the car in front. He is championship leader, so I think wherever he is on the grid, he would have that pit stop. Talking of pit stops, and Rafa is in the pits again. That's unfortunate for his incident that he had earlier, but you're right, he's definitely lucky that he didn't get any damage, because I've seen around this track the slightest contact with any wall could knock a wheel off, so he's very lucky to keep everything intact.
So yeah, just having a quick look over the permutations as it is, as Netsky comes into the pits. He's coming, he's probably going to be putting on soft, so he's got 5 second penalty, Netsky.
What are you doing?
I was just looking over the permutations. If he had stayed in 4th, you have Tom, Robbo, Konzo and Ryder were eliminated, and then you'd have Dane, Zane, Silly, and of course himself still in the running for the title.
Yes, of course we can get back to that later on in the race, even though he does have that 5 second penalty. I think he's one of a couple of drivers in this tier that could take that and actually drive away from it. So when he's supplied at the end of the race, or at a pit stop, or whatever happens with them, he could just easily overcome that mental error. I know what he was trying to do. He was trying to get the best entrance into the pit lane ever, but unfortunately he's just overcooked it, and I realised very early on what was going to happen there. He just looked way too hot, and unfortunately for him, he couldn't slow down in time. Excuse me there. And now his teammate shows him how it should be done.
We are going to have to see where they come out compared to Netsky. Netsky is just going around turn 9. Now he's going around turn 10. Where will they come out? Will the undercut prevail on his teammate? It looks like it will. He will be out P4 on the track. Of course, Samba did come out ahead of him, but the gap between him and his teammate is only about 2 seconds now, and Netsky has that 5 second time penalty. So either maybe there's some communication going on between the two, just from Netsky saying, look, I've got this 5 second time penalty, can you sort of back off a little bit?
Yeah, possibly. Of course, in real Formula 1, I don't know where the legalities stand with saying they drive to slow down, but this luckily isn't Formula 1. This is a pretty close approximation to it, with frankly quite better racing on a weekly basis. But of course the 2021 real F1 season has been quite a humdinger as well. But this race, Sly Guy and Konzo into the pits now, so Samba should assume the race lead for a little bit, but can he keep it? Let's find out, as I'm sure he's well gripped to take those sides to the end. Of course, we're on lap 26 of 36, and this race is crescendoing up to have a grandstand finish, and Ryderdale is out into P4, Netsky's P3, so that means Konzo should be out. Nope, I don't know what I'm saying anymore. Words are not coming out the way. Oh, Napidius is in the pit. I don't know why I thought he was going to exit. I thought, okay, that makes more sense. Ryderdale in 4 after the pit stops, and I think that's everybody. Yeah, everyone has stopped twice, so no disqualifications for not doing the mandatory stops, which is always a good thing. Although some drivers will be thinking, oh, I wanted a free position. I know I thought it in the past.
So yeah, there was when Silly had come out the pits, the gap was just over a second, and he's already made up 2 temps on this lap, 2.5 temps now. So I think City is really pushing. He wants to get out ahead of Samba and pull that gap. But when you're up against a driver like Samba, it's really, really difficult to pull out a gap that big.
Yep, it certainly is. Catching is one thing, but overtaking is quite another, as Murray Walker used to famously say. And he wasn't wrong, was he? It is quite another thing to overtake the opponent. You've just spent 10 laps catching. Well, let's see if Sly Guy can make a mockery of the statement, or if Samba can say, no, I'm keeping this position. Whatever happens, Samba doesn't need to, as you see, Sly Guy and Netsky behind both have at least a 3-second penalty between them, although Netsky sees a 5-second for speeding in the pit lane. Nepedius is having a shocking race with 12 seconds there. Thomas has 9, but everyone else has 3, if I've not mentioned their name. Assume they have 3 seconds, or you have Samba, Ryderdal, Zane without any at all. So that's always helpful for drivers, and the warnings are tight as well. Samba's on 2 warnings. Ryderdal is also on 2 warnings. And I think, oh no, Zane's only on 1 warning, so there you go. It's definitely who can keep it the cleanest could end up with a better gain at the end, as we saw in other tiers. And the Matt has just got another penalty, although he's down in P13. But Sly Guy takes the lead just before the braking zone, but of course he does have that penalty, so Samba's just going to stick with him as close as he can, although Sly Guy is going to use a lot of his ERS now to try and break that gap.
Yeah, definitely. There isn't really many drivers who are close, but Tom Robbo is getting very close to the back of Zane. He will have the DRS advantage, and he does actually have an ERS advantage. Whether he uses it or not, looks like he's decided not to use it. He looks from the outside, but he stays behind Zane. So yeah, Zane is doing very well with defending. Of course, the 3 drivers who are grouped together, Zane, Tom Robbo and Pierre Papy, only 3 seconds further back. They all have made 2 stops, but they're on 15 lap old mediums, so towards the end of the stint they may struggle a little bit, but they should all really stay in the positions that they're in, as Toma of course has the penalty situation and he's 6.5 seconds back from Pierre Papy. We do have yellow flags, and it's Silly. Silly has dropped it. He's got Netsky on, no, he's got the Mata who's lapped, but Netsky is getting close to that 1 second gap. I didn't manage to catch it, but Silly has made a huge mistake on the exit of turn 3, which is really turn 2, but yeah, he's really dropping back now, 1.6 seconds behind Samba. It looks like Samba's good for this win if nothing else happens.
Well, if ever a commentator's curse was going to happen, you've just definitely ensured it's going to happen, but I'm pretty sure these drivers aren't listening, so they won't know what we're saying, but hopefully the racing gods are being kind to them. But yeah, definitely I'd say an uncharacteristic mistake for Sly Guy, but he's been making a lot of them in recent events, which is why he's lost his championship lead. So I think winning as often as he did, he's definitely got the pace there to keep it, and Matta's just getting out the way, I think, of the lead cars. Yes, he is. So that's maybe why they had a yellow flag on my screen. But Samba is just in a position he likes to be. He can control from the front, and this is when Samba's at his best, when he's out leading. If he struggles in qualifying or has to come through the field, he tends to... I don't want to say anything too bad there, but it's like in real F1 where Bottas is starting 17th, he can't make his way through the field. Samba has a little bit about that himself. If he's leading, he's fine, but if he's got to come through the field, I've noticed a little bit sometimes he's off the pace, but today he's right on the pace where he needs to be. And look at the symmetry of all the penalties.
Yeah,
it's pleasing to look at, although it's not pleasing to receive them.
No, definitely not, but going on what you were saying about Samba, maybe it's like if he qualifies a bit further down, maybe in his mind he feels a little bit defeated already. Maybe because he has the mammoth task of getting through the field, maybe he feels a little bit defeated that he has to try and get through everyone. But as I was talking about that, Netsky did get past Silly, but Silly's gone down the outside, well no, inside, sorry, which becomes the outside, and he's back into P2. 1.5 seconds still the gap between Samba and Silly, so Samba's just hoping that they continue fighting, so it won't be any trouble for him.
Yeah, definitely, he's got to be thinking that, but I would say don't count out Ryder from a podium, but of course all these drivers have penalties, so look at Zane actually, he's the one that's really in form, and Konzo has 6 seconds, so he's definitely out of this unless something bizarre happens in the final few laps. We are on lap 32 here at the Austrian Grand Prix at the Red Bull Ring, just by the Styrian Mountains, which is quite pleasant to look at if you see it on the long shot. But Zane is quite in form at the moment actually. He's doing his business quietly, but he's sitting third in the standings, and I'm pretty sure if results finish this way, he may well increase his gap above 4th and beyond, but it's definitely going to be close towards the end. But at the moment Samba still leads, and yeah, I'm just don't know where to look next. There's battles all over the place, which is just how we like it here in Pinnacle tier.
So yeah, just looking at where Netsky is at the moment, if he finishes third, as you said, who's it? Tom, Robbo, Konzo, Ryderdal and Dane are all eliminated, and Zane must win with the fastest lap, which Zane is 11.8 seconds behind Konzo, and he has no penalties. So with 4 laps to go, it isn't looking very likely that he's going to win the race. As we hop on board with Netsky and Silly, these two are just fighting and fighting and fighting. Silly will have DRS, and he's getting very close to the back of Netsky. It's just like, to me, to you, to me, to you, to me, to you. Nobody wants to be in front going into the last DRS zone, but Silly is once again very, very slightly ahead of Netsky. Netsky does have the inside line, and Netsky is actually pulling out ahead, and he's got ahead of him. So he can use this to his advantage here going into the DRS straights. But Netsky has depleted most of his ERS, and Silly, he has got a little bit of an advantage, but whilst they're fighting, they're still closing up to Samba.
Yes, that's definitely a good observation there. Even though they are fighting, they are taking each other with them as opposed to holding each other up. But that is a shocking exit from turn 1 for Sly Guy there. But Henry's got another penalty, which is always sad to see, but he's still trying at this juncture. But I don't think Sly Guy's got enough room there. No, he hasn't. He's slightly too far back after the mistake at turn 1 to try and get past. But it's a great point you make about DRS. I don't think anyone wants to be the car slightly ahead on the final lap of the final corners, because that could give so much of an advantage to the other driver. But Sly Guy doesn't need to pass Netsky. His seconds of penalties are less than Netsky's, and Netsky's was just an error going into the pit lane slightly too hot, and 5 seconds is what you get for that. But Samba is just cruising pretty much now, and I'm just wondering the state of the tyres for Tom, Robbo and Zane. They are fighting together. There you go, you got the other Alpha in with a Williams now, and as opposed to an Alpha and an Alpine, and that's very tricky to say, frankly. So yeah. I think designers need to start to think of cars that begin with a letter other than A. Thank you very much.
Yeah, just looking back at the penalty situation, if it stays like this and Ryderdal doesn't pick up any more penalties, Silly will be in second, Ryderdal will be in third, and Netsky drops down 2 places to 4th.
Yes, that's
actually I think actually no, he doesn't.
It's going to be close.
Netsky only loses the position to Silly, which is huge. It's all about damage limitation for Netsky, and if he can keep the gap, well, extend the gap from himself to his teammate, it's going to be huge damage limitation for him.
Yeah, of course, sometimes you're going to have a race where you're not as competitive as you want to be, or it just doesn't go your way, and I think damage limitation is very important, especially if you have desires of lifting another championship here in One Hub Racing. But I think he's doing what he needs to do and hoping that results go his way. Next week he could have better race and control it from the front a little bit better, but it's not over yet. You can see them just in the background now. They are still gaining on Samba, who I think is slightly struggling with his soft tyres. It is the last lap of the race, so we are going to stay on board with this battle between Netsky, Sly Guy, and of course we'll see Samba in the foreground. Just there we go, and let's see which one of these guys are going to take the win today. It looks like it could be Samba, but it wouldn't shock me if any of them finish first on track. But of course Samba is the only one without a penalty, so I don't think it really matters in which order they finish. They're probably going to finish in Samba, Sly Guy and Netsky. Rydell I don't think might be close enough to pip his teammate, but Konzo's out of this. I think it's going to be a top four. Samba rounds the final corner and Netsky gets very close coming out of it, and I think oh no. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Samba does win, but that was more for pride of the potential champion there, the defending champion, I think, as well, definitely. But Netsky does keep his podium, which shocked everyone. I didn't think he was going to do that with the penalties he had, but I think I must have miscounted Rydell's. Anyway, Zane crosses the line. Can Tom Rowe gain at the end? No, he can't. The Toma, P10, the Piteous, and Rafa round out the points. Matta's already finished a lap down, but he's still going, and it could be about the fastest lap outside the top 10, which will confirm slightly at the end. But we're just on board with Rafa as he comes around the final couple of corners, and he's throwing that Aston Martin around and gets another penalty on the final lap, which doesn't really do anything for him other than just looks really good for camera. So the game will suggest a driver of the day very shortly, but as will we. Konzo in game, maybe. I wonder if Dane Stahl knows who Konzo is yet.
I think now he does. I think now he should know who he is. But before we get to the standings, just want to say a quick thank you to our sponsors and partners for One Hub Racing. We have Next Level Racing, who sponsor the league by providing an NLR Direct Drive stand to our driver of the season, which is a new award here in One Hub. We have 3M Sim Racing, who sponsor the league by providing a pair of their sim racing gloves to driver with the most combined poles and fastest laps. And our partners are Vespertine. We are partnered with them, who sponsor our championship prizes, and we also are partnered with ERT, who sponsor the Going Gets Tough award. And we have to also say a big thank you to Thibaut for providing the task system to us. So yeah, if you want to run us quickly through the through the results, you've got 10 seconds.
Yep, I'll certainly try. You got Samba in first place, you got Sly Guy second, Netsky in third, Rydell fourth, Konzo fifth, Zane, Pierre Papi sixth, seventh, Tom Rowe in eighth, Henry in ninth, only Thomas in 10th, Nipidius and Rafa round out the points, Matt had just missed out on points, and Arnold, Owen Wyatt, and the other driver, which I couldn't get to in time, sadly retired very early on. Dane Star, that's the one, yeah, I should have known that, my fantasy team. Absolutely shocking. But yeah, no. Great race we've seen today, as we tend to do here, but there's quite a few nominations going through my head for driver of the day, but I will, as always, let you pick yours first.
I will honestly, I will have to say, I'm going to go with Rydell. I think he had a very solid race. He had a very consistent drive, very solid, and he had a good finishing position. My question to Rydell is, knowing that your teammate is in the championship fight in this race, was there any part of you that was there anything that you think you could have done to help him out, and was there any part of you that wanted to stay in the championship fight?
Great question and a great choice there. He was definitely on my shortlist, but I'm definitely curious about what he responds to that if he chooses to, because as we know, the Pinnacle tier don't really like the media very much. Maybe if someone else asks the questions, they might answer more. But anyway, yeah, honourable shout-outs. I mean, for the context of the race that he's had, I think you have to shout out Samba as well. But he started in pole position and he's done some quite overtakes, but in the end he finishes first, so he doesn't really gain any positions, even though we saw him battling quite often on track. But I think I'm going to have to take Sly Guy. I think I'm going to have to go with him. He's finished second from fifth, which is probably uncharacteristic of him for starting in fifth. But the question I'm going to ask him is, do you still feel confident that you can win the championship? Although this is definitely a great step towards doing that. You just need to continue to finish ahead of Netsky and hope for the best. So I think those are our questions, and I think that might be everything that we need to do, other than thank everyone for watching in the chat. It's very appreciated. And of course, if you fancy, watching this more, you can always subscribe and like us on YouTube, which I'm sure you do anyway. But if you don't, just please click the buttons, and maybe, I'm sure if you fancy racing with us one day, just definitely apply. And maybe next season we can be commentating on how your races are going. But it's definitely been an absolute pleasure to be here this week at Austria. Such a brilliant track with wonderful views. But I think next week we are off to USA, and that track is very different from this one, so I'm just looking forward to seeing what kind of weather we're going to get there, because wet could cause chaos as well. But I think we should sign off now. So it's been an absolute honour to be here, and thank you to Quinn for stepping in and bringing some of his magic with him.
Yeah, it wasn't as much magic as last time, but still get to sprinkle it around a little bit.
Absolutely, sprinkle it around. That's all we need, a bit of a sprinkle. That's all fine with me, and I'm sure it's fine with the viewers as well. But I'm sure we will see you next week, same time, different track, same channel. Prospect 6:30, and then Pinnacle all the way up to Pinnacle at 8:30. It's definitely an exciting Friday night of racing here in One Hub, and thank you for all the support, and we will see you next time in USA. Good night, everybody.